crowds. If you go to India, there's no way around it. You may have heard or you may have noticed that India has quite the large population. So when traveling through India, it's highly likely that at some point you're gonna have to make your way through a crowd, or you're gonna be walking through an area and all of a sudden you stumble upon a huge crowd of people. Don't worry, it's definitely normal, but there are some things to be mindful of. So things in India aren't necessarily organized in the same way they're organized, let's say, in the States. And when I say they're not organized in the same way, I mean they're not organized really in any way sometimes. So here's what I mean. So I went to a train station and I was trying to figure out how to buy a ticket somewhere, and literally I was doing like the American thing, which is like, oh, I'm gonna just walk up behind someone, give a nice little distance, and like stand in line and wait. That is not how it works in India. And I quickly saw, so I gave space and I was waiting. Oh, a bunch of Indians, they filled that space between me and the person I thought I was behind, and they were like all over the place. And I was like, okay. Now, by the way, some tourists, when this happens to them, they're like, how dare you? And by the way, I've seen this happen. I saw this happen with a guy. He lives in India, but he's from the UK. He got so upset with some Indians who like kind of gotten in front of him, and I was thinking, why are you upset? You know this is how they roll. This isn't personal. So when you're in a line in India, or rather when you're needing to get access to a counter, right? Because there's no line, you're not in it. What you actually need to do, what happens is people really do crowd to the front, and you just kind of have to be a little bit assertive and get in there if it's one of these type of situations. So what I did at the train station was I pushed my way. I was like up. I was the one who's crowding behind the Indians at that point, right? Like I was up close, you know, like there in the mix, and I had to wait. And then finally I was like, because you have to like work through people because there's so many people there. You have to get the attention. So I was like, one elbow's kind of in there, and I'm like, I'm trying to go to Mumbai. Can I get a ticket? Can I, you got to elbow through the other. No, it's my turn. It's India. This is how it goes. If you're expecting this, I'm going to wait, and then one day you'll be there for hours in line. Push your way through. You'll be fine. But that's definitely how it works. So you can do it. It's okay. You're not being rude. They're not being rude. It's just how it works in India. Now, when I was first traveling around India and I'd find myself in all these crowds, I was really worried about my belongings, right? Like, am I gonna get pickpocketed? Am I gonna be robbed in these crowds? Here's the thing to note. I've never spoken to any traveler who's been robbed in India. Now, I have met plenty of travelers who have been pickpocketed in France, in Italy, all over Europe. Yet for some reason, no one's like, oh my God, you're going to Europe? Are you scared? Are you worried? No, they talk about being worried about going to India. But the truth is, it's usually fine. But, so I showed you in another video my sneaky pants. So I do sometimes wear those if I'm worried about pickpockets. That's in the video that's talking about accommodations. But another thing, I like to carry a backpack. I'm not wearing one now because I'm in Thailand and I feel super safe, and I just travel with a cute little purse. But a backpack is a great way to carry lots of things in it. It's tough for people to like dig into a backpack and get some stuff out of it. It's not a super smooth, easy process. It's not easy to do. So if you're in an area where you're going to be going through a lot of crowds, if you're worried about how to carry your things around, backpacks are a great way to do it. Listen, you're in a foreign country. So when I'm traveling, I go for comfort and ease. I don't care so much about fashion all the time. I don't wear one, but I totally would. Fanny pack. No judgment. You can totally wear a fanny pack to keep your stuff safe. It is not an issue. No one's gonna care. You're a tourist anyway. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to stand out. You're gonna stand out anyway if you're not Indian. If you are of Indian heritage, by the way, and you're traveling to India for the first time, okay, you could try to dress like a local and blend in if you want. Or you could just say, you know what? I'm Indian, but I'm American now also. I'm wearing the fanny pack because I'm a traveler. Whatever, up to you how you choose to play that out. So, but when you're traveling through India and you're dealing with the crowds, it's okay, don't worry. Another thing that comes with crowds is pushing. So sometimes people feel that pushing is very rude, but it's just a cultural thing. They're not pushing necessarily to be rude. So I remember I was on a bridge, crossing a bridge in Rishikesh, India. It was so crowded and people were literally pushing me. And it's like, where do you think I can go? What is the point in pushing me right now? Like, we're all just stuck. And at one point I didn't know what to do, and I was just really annoyed with the people pushing me. So this woman was like pushing, and I said, ow, right? I think she was so stunned by my owl. She jumped back, by the way. I think she was like really offended that maybe thinking she had hurt me. I said, ow. Oh, for the rest of that walk across the bridge, which took like 15 minutes because it was so packed, she didn't, hands were completely off, you know? But that was a reminder to me, actually, that I realized I was in the wrong, to be honest. Like I said, the owl, I kind of freaked out in that moment, but like she wasn't trying to hurt me, right? Like it wasn't a personal thing. It's just that in India, space is different. People touch each other. It's not sexual. It's not offensive. It's just kind of like, it's just kind of the way it is, you know? So that touching happened. I felt guilty afterwards. So whatever, crowds are there. It's okay. Just relax. If you get claustrophobic and nervous around crowds, avoid Delhi and Mumbai. Crowds can occur in other places though, but certainly if you're in a major city, you're likely to come upon some crowds. But just remember, it's fine, you're safe, it's okay. Before I first went to India, I was definitely concerned about the staring. I heard from so many travelers like, oh my God, the staring is so intense. And so I was like, oh my God, what's it gonna be like? That's kind of it. Okay, so you've just experienced it. It's not that bad, but it is something to be aware of. So definitely in the West, you know, especially in the US, we tend to think of staring as being rude. But I think it's important to just remember, this is just a cultural norm. It's not necessarily a natural fact. It's not a natural truth that staring is rude. And certainly in India, you'll find that a lot of people, no, they were not raised to believe that staring is rude. They were raised to believe that staring is completely fine. And that is okay. I think sometimes when I would walk down the street and a lot of people were staring at me, I didn't really know how to take it. And sometimes I thought of it as like, I thought that it meant that maybe something was wrong with me, or like there was a problem, you know, like when they would stare. And I was like, what? It's kind of how I felt inside. I did not say that, but in my mind I was thinking, what do you want? What do you look, what? But no, what is simply that you look different, you know? India is filled with Indians. So if you are not one, then people just might stare at you. But here's the thing, there's lots of different ways to handle it. The number one way you don't want to handle it is by getting upset. And I talked to a lot of guys, actually, that somehow it became hostile for them. Like, people would stare and they really took it as some kind of a challenge. I don't know, but it's not necessary because a lot of times it's not that way. So usually when people are staring at me like, by the way, you probably can't win a staring contest with an Indian person. I've tried on numerous occasions. I stare back and I'm like, and then we're just like this. It's a really long time. It's awkward. They don't break. Okay, but so here's the thing. What I usually do after I tried that a few times with like no real reaction, all I do is smile, wave. You know, it's funny and amazing how that can really break up kind of the moment and the awkwardness. And it's like, oh, you're friendly. Okay, like, because at first I think sometimes when people are seeing you and you do look so different, they're just kind of in shock and looking. And honestly, I don't even think they realize they're staring. So sometimes when they are staring, and then I just wave, smile, say hi, you know, be friendly. Oh my God, like, it's shocking how many times I felt like I made somebody's day. Like, where people were so excited. And then sometimes I say hi, they want to come over, they talk to me, maybe we take some selfies. By the way, you may also get selfie requests. That is not uncommon. It's not something to be worried about. Now, okay, so I did hear this one story that sometimes Indian guys try to take selfies with girls and then like they tell all their friends that like they're hooking up with the girl. So one time this guy did ask me for a selfie and I said okay, but then he pulled me in like super close, like uncomfortably close. So I was thinking, this is happening to me. He's going to take this photo and then tell everyone that like we're hooking up, that like we're a couple. But ha, I got him. So here's what I did. By the way, I come up with the dumbest things sometimes. I don't know how these things occur to me. But so he pulled me in like super close and he like puts the camera up for the selfie. So I just made every awkward face I could think of. I was like, I was just like, eyes were closed. My mouth was like so straight. Like his friends would look at that photo. They would not be impressed. Like, oh my God, look at that foreign girl you're hooking up with. They'd be concerned. Like, what has happened? Is she okay? Why are you what? So you could try that strategy if you like. If you get the awkward selfie requests and you're worried about how that photo is going to be used, make it a bad photo. Nailed it, no problem. So selfie requests, staring, it's really not a problem. It's something to be aware of. Just don't get worked up, have fun with it. And you know, the other great thing about staring is that I think if someone stares at you, it means you're allowed to stare at them. And let me tell you something, there's a lot to look at with Indians, especially with Indian women. Their clothes are gorgeous, the jewelry is like amazing, their hair is interesting and nice. So like when these people were staring at me, sometimes I really loved it because I was like, oh my God, look at that sari. How on earth did she wrap it like that? How does it stay? Oh my gosh, she has a toe ring. There's so much to look at and enjoy. So I say, embrace it. It's India. Just go with it, and you'll see there's nothing to worry about.